Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 2021 Build to Scale Competition Debrief webinar. I am Eric Smith. I'm the Director of the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship here at the Economic Development Administration in the Commerce Department, and my colleague.
Hi, my name is Misha McDaniel. I'm an Economic Development Specialist within the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship.
And we'll be presenting on this debrief webinar today. So let's talk about Build to Scale in the 2021 program. We're going to go over the competition. We're going to talk about technical requirements, some trends in merit reviews that we noticed, and then also highlight some future funding opportunities that we think are coming up on the horizon. So to start off, let's just take a look at the competition overall. When it came to funding requested, the applications that we received, we had $161 million in requests, 140 on the venture side and 21 million on the capital challenge side. Ultimately, we deployed $37 million in funding, the preponderance of that to the venture challenge, $31 million, and $6 million via the capital challenge. When it comes to just actual submissions, we got 236 submissions in total. You can see the breakout per challenge on your screens. 171 of those were technically eligible. So Misha will talk a little bit about what that means and what some of the challenges are to technical eligibility that we saw. And then we ultimately made 50 total awards based on the merits of those applications. Let me hand it over to Misha now to talk about technical requirements.
As described in Section E2 of the fiscal year 21 Build to Scale Notice of Funding Opportunity, all the submissions received by the application deadline undergo a review of eligibility and technical completeness. A common mistake is waiting until the last minute to submit the application. There are more than 230 submissions to this year's competition, and the traffic caused by that many simultaneous submissions can cause errors that delay an applicant's ability to meet the deadline. Applications submitted outside of grants.gov and after the competition deadline were not considered. Let's review other common errors we observed in this year's pool of applications. Section C1 of the Notice of Funding Opportunity provides a list of entities that were eligible for consideration in this competition. As with other EDA grant programs, Build to Scale cannot provide awards to individuals. Furthermore, organizations with active awards from Build to Scale or its predecessor, Regional Innovation Strategies, were deemed ineligible. Missing the forms and required documentation listed in Section D2 of the Notice of Funding Opportunity was a common reason for technical disqualification and may have excluded the application from merit consideration. Build to Scale is authorized by Section 27 of the Stephenson-Wilder Technology Innovation Act of 1980 and is designated as a one-to-one challenge. That means that applicants must provide matching share equal to at least 50% of the total project cost, not just the federal request. In-kind contributions may be used to meet the matching share requirement, but a provider of matching share, whether cash or in-kind contributions, may not serve as a contractor under the award for which it provides matching share. In addition to Section D2 of the NOFO, OIE also provides guidance in the form of appendices. Applicants are encouraged to utilize Appendix A of the NOFO to organize their project budget and self-evaluate whether the application meets the challenge's one-to-one matching requirement. You can also refer to Appendix C, which is displayed on this slide and the following slide, which summarize the required documentation for various entity types. I also want to highlight the state point of contact EO 12372 compliance documentation, which was a common technical error and can be learned, is further described in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. Now let me give it back over to Eric so he can describe what some of the goals are and what we're looking for in this competition.
Thanks, Misha. One thing that we're always looking to do through this program, the core of it is to build regional economies through scalable technology startups. And the way that we kind of figure out a project's potential to do that is through the merit review criteria that are set out in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, the NOFO. So one of the things that Misha and I are going to do now is, now that we've gotten through the technical requirements, we'll talk about some of the trends we noticed across the whole suite of applications that we got, some of the trends we noticed in the particular merit review criteria. So the first criterion is ecosystem resources and assets. Have you clearly identified the assets in your region that contribute to the particular technology entrepreneurship ecosystem that you're planning to support through the project. So successful applications here contextualize those assets and the challenges that those industries and technology sectors are facing, provided quantitative data that substantiates the assertions, whether that's the needs of the region or the opportunities that this project can leverage. And it also describes those regional assets and the challenges that provide a comprehensive and clear picture of the region and how this award would leverage those assets to support the regional work. Another criterion is the proposed solution. So we want to understand what the project is going to do, how those activities and how the project's work will ultimately support and have a positive impact on those technology entrepreneurship ecosystems in your region. So here, successful applications connected the project to specific solutions. So identified the problems that regional industries are facing and identified a way to solve some of those problems. They described the proposed solution, and it had clear processes that substantiated the solution's ability to be implemented, substantiated the feasibility of the project with plans and milestones and evidence of past accomplishments and achievements, and identified participants and beneficiaries, including clear outreach plans to reach those folks and those stakeholders. The last criterion that I'll talk about is use of partner entities. So this is really an understanding of how well integrated the project is and the lead applicant is with the other actors in the ecosystem in the region you're operating in. So successful applications here brought in partners across a variety of industries or stakeholder groups to show that there really is interconnectivity in the region and support for this activity. It illustrated the partners' relationships to the project's goals, and it demonstrated prior achievements, existing momentum, or shared goals of the different partners to substantiate how strong those partnerships are, and it showed the depth and diversity of the partnerships that really substantiate that this kind of activity and these types of collaborations can continue on throughout the project, but also beyond that project period. Now, let me hand it over to Misha to talk about the other three.
Thanks, Eric. Let's start with measurable goals and sustainability. This criterion refers to the quality of the proposed goals and the proposal's ability to demonstrate that the project goals are reasonable and feasible. Higher scoring applications were more effective at communicating measurable goals and substantiating those goals with specific metrics. Given the time-limited nature of the Build to Scale award, submissions that provided risk mitigation strategies, leveraged a variety of funding sources, and identified and conveyed a capacity for future fundraising were also more competitive. Moving on to the budget and staffing plan, I want to emphasize that with average awards of more than $700,000 and nearly $2 million for the capital and venture challenges, respectively, it's critical for your application to clearly identify the financial, human, and programmatic resources that are necessary to carry out the scope of work. We realize that the one-to-one matching requirement for this opportunity can result in complex budgets, which is why we provide the budget narrative template in Appendix A of the Notice of Funding Opportunity. The most successful applications will be able to utilize this tool to justify how project resources are allocated, provide detail such as budget broken down year by year, and expanding on the nature of in-kind contributions. And they also highlighted the experience and capacity of the personnel that would be assigned to the project. The final criterion is alignment with Build to Scale program goals, which is, to reiterate, to build regional economies through scalable technology startups. For this, we're evaluating the project narrative, budget narrative, and letters of support to determine whether the proposal not only responds to the prompts, but also has the potential to advance EDA's broader goals of supporting communities and addressing regional challenges to equitable economic development and leverage opportunities to drive entrepreneurship and job creation in high growth sectors. And now I'll let Eric close this section with tips on submitting compelling project and budget narratives. Back to you, Eric.
Thanks, Misha. So, core of the application are the project and budget narratives, both very important. Just a few high-level tips on each. On the project narrative, convey how the project addresses a strategic gap in regional capacity to commercialize technology through entrepreneurship. So identify that and identify the gap and convey how the project is going to address that gap. Make sure that you're connecting the project to existing or potential growth industries in the region and substantiate that with data. Make sure that there is evidence that those industries are present and are growing in the region. Define the participants, the partners, the stakeholders, and be clear about their roles in the project and how the project will help those participants or partners. Substantiate the scope of work with metrics. Make sure that we're going to be able to measure the impact and understand how the project succeeded as it progresses. Provide dates for key milestones. We want to understand the feasibility of the project, particularly given the budget and the timeline, and understanding milestones and being able to measure progress against those is really important. Lastly, illustrate the long-term sustainability and impact of the project. We know this can be challenging to figure out how these things can move forward and sustain, but I think it's really important to talk about the particular strategies that you have to make that project last and to make that impact durable in the regional economy. On the budget narrative side, again, although it's shorter, definitely just as important as the project narrative. Make sure that the amounts in your budget narrative correspond with what you've put in the SF424 and the SF424A, both of which have spaces for budget information. The staffing plan, which is part of the budget narrative, should list the positions and roles of the members assigned to the project and be clear about who those personnel are, or at least what those roles are in cases where they're still to be hired. Identify and justify how both the federal and the matching funds in each line item will be used. And ultimately, itemize the valuation for in-kind contributions to help substantiate what those are worth. Now that you've watched this webinar, which is step one to requesting application feedback, if you've got additional questions, would like to better understand your application and our evaluation of it, identify the strengths and weaknesses of your application after having watched this webinar in an email, and send that email to us at oie@eda.gov. Before you do that, reread your application in its entirety. I will again say, don't forget the budget. And please do invite members of your project team's leadership to the debrief when it does get scheduled. I also want to talk about future funding opportunities so that you can start thinking and hopefully planning for some of these. Two that we will likely have available in 2022 based on appropriations from Congress is the STEM Talent Challenge. The STEM Talent Challenge aims to build STEM talent training systems that help build regional innovation economies, regional technology entrepreneurship economies. So this helps build the workforce in your region that can fuel a lot of that startup activity in the technology space. And also Build to Scale will return pending appropriations in 2022. So for those of you who are interested in pursuing this again, please look out for that. And I would suggest following us on social media and subscribing to the EDA newsletter for updates. You can find that all of that at eda.gov. I want to thank you all today for taking the time to view this webinar. Thanks to Misha for helping us understand the technical and merit review requirements. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks.